Oh, it's working. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I know it is. It is gonna work. All right, so the dilemma that I have is how do I keep the pearls from running all over the place? And then how do I contain the resin? So I'm not so much worried about containing the resin, but the pearls are going to just flop everywhere. So I'm thinking about, like, could I use UV resin and make a dam? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking, literally thinking out loud. But could I? So here is the grand plan, and I really don't know if it's going to work. So I'm not talking through the steps on the video because I almost thought about not even filming it in case it was a complete and utter flop. So what I'm doing is putting a line of UV resin on the board and then putting the beads on top of the resin and then curing it under the light. The board I'm using is actually a piece of pallet wood that was cut from another project, and it already has blue paint on it. So I'm not going to seal the wood with anything first, but if it was raw wood, I would sand it and then I would seal the wood with either paint or with Mod Podge or some kind of clear polyacrylic. So what you're seeing me do is I am creating a dam with the beads and the UV resin. Once I've got the beads all down, I'm going to take my UV resin and just run it along the inside and make sure I have all the gaps between the beads sort of situated and, there's no gaps in between. And the lamp I'm using here is the Resiner's two-way light, and it has lights on the top and the bottom. You can switch between the top or bottom or both. And it has a timer up to 8 minutes, which is very, very handy. So my little hack here that you see me doing is to unfold the lamp all the way out because it has a little, like a little pivot arm. And that way I can use the top and the bottom at the same time, but on the flat surface. It's really very, very handy. I love it. Whew, that was a chore, but I think that's going to give us a nice dam that's going to contain these little pearls. It's going to keep the resin somewhat. It's going to keep the resin somewhat contained, I think. But if I have it just seep over the board, it's okay. I can always spread the resin out. So now the trick is to get these beads out and figure out how I'm going to do that. I'm also going to use these big ones from Dollar Tree to give us just a little bit of just different shapes, different colors, different sizes. I don't think I'm going to use these. These might be a little bit too different, I think. I'm thinking about using the gold, but probably I'm not going to use the gold. I'm gonna limit to the clear and the pearls. All right, that is good. So I'm wondering if I put them in there now. And then pour some resin, then I can put some more on top. Tricky, tricky, tricky. I might just ruin this whole thing.
So I do want the bead placement to be really random, but what I'm doing with the bigger beads is just putting a few of the bigger beads like throughout the tree, just so I don't get them clumping together. So I just, I don't want very many of these big ones, and I don't, well, the big clear ones, and I don't want very many of um, the big pearls. So I'm just putting a little bit of the big ones in there and then filling in with the small ones, which is very random.
Oh, it's working. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I know it is. It is gonna work.
And now I'm filling up the rest of the tree with the smaller beads that I have mixed up in the bowl. And this really, truly is random with a, carefully placed bead here and there to fill a gap. And the plan is working, y'all. It is
This
working.
is gonna work. This 100% is gonna work. I'm just putting the final touches. I don't really think I like that one there. Okay, okay. I gotta stop though, because I can always add more on the top. One more. Okay, so now what I need to do is mix up my resin and hope that it doesn't run all over every place. Another thing I could do is dump all these out into a bowl and mix the resin up into it and then put it in the shape. But I think that would be too messy. So I'm just going to mix up resin. I am going to use the Let's Resin Fast Cure. Oh, I don't know how much. Always mix up more if I need to. But I'm going to go with 100 milliliters.
If I was going to be covering the whole board with resin, I probably would not use this particular resin. I probably would use the Bond Crafter tabletop resin because the Bond Crafter tabletop resin does not fisheye. The Let's Resin Fast Cure, even though it's thick, it's not a coating resin. So it's not meant as a, to coat the board. So I would use the Bond Crafter tabletop. But in this project, I'm not going to be covering the board. I'm just wanting to put the resin inside of where the pearls are, inside of the tree.
Here is the scary part. And I'm not going to be upset if it gets on the board because my board is sealed and I can always mix up more resin to cover the board completely, which I may end up doing anyway. But the whole purpose of this border was to contain those beads because if I had not put a border, these beads would be running all over the dang place.
So adding the resin to this tree is really no different than adding the resin to the crushed glass. I start at one end, I work my way down, and I make sure I get my edges. And so far, there is no leakage. The dam is holding.
I've used roughly 60 and I do have some leakage. That's okay. Actually, it's not leakage, it's drippage. I'm just going to wipe it.
So really all I'm trying to do here is wipe away the resin, but I really like the look of it and it's not producing any fish eyes. So I'm just taking the very barest amount of resin and almost treating it like a varnish and just rubbing it into the wood. I mean, it is a super, super thin layer, y'all. And you will see at the end, I got no fish eyes out of this. So it's a really very thin skim coat.
I'm curious to see if this will cause any fish eyes because I'm just doing a tack layer. It's not even a full layer. Like it's so thin on here, guys. I think this is going to be fine. But I am going to go ahead and put resin on my trunk. I'm going to coat the whole trunk with resin. And then put a liberal amount on the bottom, which I just did. That'll work right there. And then my star. Hey, hey, I'm recording right now. I'll be out there in a minute, okay? Okay, I think that'll be fine. Let's just see what happens. So what I plan on doing, if this does cause fish eyes, I am getting a little bit of seepage of the resin from the pearl layer. If it does end up fish eyeing, what I'm going to do is show you how you can fix that, because I think it may end up fish eyeing, and I've got a hole in my glove. It's okay. I think I'm going to just put, I wish I'd left these separated now, but I just want to put a couple of these little small ones in a few of the gaps that I see. You know, where I didn't get a bead before, where there's just like a little tiny hole. I'm going to leave it. I think that's it.
The next morning, I just flipped it over and added a little sawtooth hanger on the back. I know the back of the board looks awful, but no one looks at the back anyway. But I just put a little sawtooth hanger on the back, and then that way it can be hung up on the wall, or it can just lean against the wall, which is what I do a lot. And look, no fish eyes. So I did get a little bit of of seepage, but the dam really worked, and I plan on making another one of these for my show. This one actually sold within a couple of hours, even as plain as it is, no ornaments. I think the pearls are the ornaments. The pearls don't need any more embellishment. But look, no fish eyes. And so there it is. And let me know what you think. Are you going to try this? I think you should. All right, make it a crafty day, friends. Bye.